If you're living in Massachusetts right now, financially successful but still feeling stretched thin, this video is for you. I've spent over 12 years helping families relocate to the Pittsburgh area from high-cost Northeast markets, including many buyers comparing Massachusetts to Pennsylvania. And here's the truth. People moving from Massachusetts to Pittsburgh are not downsizing their lives. They're upgrading them. And I see this pattern over and over again when people from higher cost Northeast markets start comparing their numbers side by side, with bigger homes, a lower cost of living, less financial pressure, and finally, breathing room. So today, I'm going to show you why moving from Massachusetts to Pittsburgh in 2026 is actually worth it, especially if you're researching the cost of living in Pittsburgh, housing prices compared to Massachusetts, and whether Pittsburgh is a good place to live long term without sacrificing career opportunity. So let's start with what upgrading actually looks like in real numbers. According to Redfin's December 2025 housing market data, the median home price in Boston is about $832,000, and the median home price in Pittsburgh is about $235,000. And if that number makes you do a double take, you're not alone. That's usually the exact moment that people stop and rethink what their money is actually buying them. Almost every buyer that I speak with who's comparing Massachusetts to the Pittsburgh area has that same reaction. Now, I'm not just going to throw that number at you and move on. Let's unpack what that difference actually means for your life. Let's say you're a dual income household in Massachusetts earning about $180,000 combined. That's not a struggling household. That's a successful one. And yet in the Boston market, you're probably stretching to afford a $700,000 home, maybe in a decent school district if you're lucky. Your mortgage payment alone could easily land you in the high 3,000s depending on your rate and down payment. And once you layer in taxes and insurance, it's not hard to see families pushing toward a total monthly housing cost that feels like a second job. Let's run that same scenario in Pittsburgh. That same $180,000 income here makes you genuinely comfortable. Not comfortable on paper, actually comfortable. You could buy a $400,000 home in one of the most popular high-performing school district areas around Pittsburgh, like Mount Lebanon, Upper St. Clair, Quaker Valley, or North Allegheny, and still keep your monthly housing cost at a level where you can breathe. And this is where the upgrade starts to show up in real life. Because if you reclaim even $1,500 to $2,500 a month versus what you're paying in Greater Boston, that's not little money. That's retirement contributions, travel, or college savings. That's not having to negotiate every single fund decision. And that's the part that people don't expect until they're actually living it. And here's another layer. According to research, cost of living comparisons, Boston is about 36% more expensive overall. That includes the day-to-day categories that people forget to budget for, not just housing. And according to Numbero's city comparison, the cost of living including rent in Pittsburgh is about 34% lower than in Boston. And what matters most isn't the exact percentage. What matters is that nearly every family who moves here tells me the same thing. They stop doing math in their head every time they swipe their card. I spoke with a couple last year who relocated from just outside Boston. Both professionals, no kids yet. On paper, they were doing great. When they moved here, the first thing they said to me wasn't about the house. It was, we didn't realize how tense we were all the time. That comment stayed with me because I hear versions of it more than you'd like, or more than you'd think. That stuck with me because that's what this move often gives people, not just savings, but relief. And that relief shows up in more places than people expect. Housing is the big headline, but taxes are the silent killer that a lot of people don't fully appreciate until they're actually living it. So let's compare state income taxes. According to mass.gov, Massachusetts' wage withholding tax rate is 5%, and there's an additional 4% surtax above an inflation-adjusted income threshold of a little over $1 million. Compare that to Pennsylvania, which has a flat 3.7% individual income tax. So yes, on the state level, Pennsylvania is lower, but I want to be upfront about one important nuance. Pennsylvania is one of those states where many municipalities and school districts levy local earned income taxes. So your total income tax depends on where you live. This is where having someone local walk you through the details really matters, but that doesn't erase the advantage for many households. Now, let's talk about property taxes. Pennsylvania property taxes can feel higher than people expect depending on the township and the school district. And Allegheny County is its own unique animal because of the assessments and millage. As a directional reference point, Smart Asset estimates the average effective property tax rate in Allegheny County to be around 1.68%. But here's the key. You're often paying for that rate on a much lower home value than what you're used to in Massachusetts. So even if you land in a higher tax district here, your total property tax bill can still come in meaningfully below what you'd pay on a much more expensive home in Boston. And if you want the broader tax friendliness view, Kiplinger's recent analysis of tax burden on middle-class families ranks Massachusetts among the least tax-friendly states. So the math can work, the taxes can work, but here's where things get really interesting, because the number one concern I hear from Massachusetts buyers is always the same. But what about jobs? Boston has such a strong economy. And you're right, it does. If you're coming from Massachusetts, you're probably used to thinking of yourself as living an economic powerhouse. Boston has biotech, universities, finance, healthcare, and all those prestigious industries. And all that's true. I'm not here to trash Massachusetts, but Pittsburgh has been quietly building something really powerful over the last 2 decades. I've watched that evolution firsthand, especially in tech and healthcare. According to Wallet Hub's Best Cities for Jobs ranking, Pittsburgh was ranked among the top cities in the nation. Let's talk about what's actually under the hood. According to the Pittsburgh Technology Council's 2025 State of the Industry report, that was a mouthful, Pittsburgh employs about 37,000 core technology workers. And those workers earn an average of just over $106,000 per year, which is far above the regional average. On the investment side, the Pittsburgh Tech Council and Innovation Works reported that total investment in Pittsburgh in 2023 reached $3.12 billion, driven heavily by large corporate investments. So why does that matter if you're relocating from Massachusetts? Because it means that Pittsburgh isn't just affordable, it's a real economy with real career paths. And in many industries, your salary can actually go further here. And yes, the big names are here too. We have major research powerhouses like Carnegie Mellon University and the University of Pittsburgh, and they feed everything from robotics to healthcare innovation. According to NVIDIA's own reporting and Carnegie Mellon's announcement, NVIDIA chose Pittsburgh for its first AI tech community, anchored by joint technology centers with CMU and Pitt. Healthcare is massive here. UPMC and Allegheny Health Network are major regional employers. Finance is strong too, with PNC and BNY Mellon having major footprints in the region. One thing that surprises a lot of Massachusetts buyers is how portable their careers actually are. I've spoken with engineers, healthcare professionals, finance managers, and people in biotech adjacent roles who've made this move without taking a step backward. In fact, some of them tell me that their career trajectory improved because they had more margin in their life. So if the career question is your biggest hesitation, I get it. But once that box is checked, the next question isn't if anymore, it's okay, what does this actually look like? And this is exactly why I put together my Pittsburgh Relocation Guide. If you're seriously considering moving to Pittsburgh from Massachusetts and you want to understand what it would actually feel like day to day, you can download my free Pittsburgh Relocation Guide today. Just scan the QR code on the screen or click the link in the description below. It's designed specifically for buyers moving from out of state. It walks through neighborhoods, timelines, and what to expect with your move so there are fewer surprises along the way. Now, let's talk about the Pittsburgh neighborhoods that Massachusetts buyers tend to feel most at home in. All right, so the math works, and the job story is stronger than most people expect. Now comes the question that I've heard from Massachusetts buyers. Where should we actually live? If you've been living in places like Brooklyn, Newton, Wesley, or Lexington, you're used to strong schools, walkability, and that suburban with a town center feel. Good news, we have that here, and the key is knowing which areas actually match the lifestyle that you're used to. Let's start with Mount Lebanon. This is often where families from Boston's inner suburbs feel most at home. It's one of those places where people immediately say, oh, this feels familiar. Realtor.com economists name Mount Lebanon the third most in-demand neighborhood in the country based on listing views. And when it comes to school, the niche rankings consistently place Mount Lebanon among the top performing districts locally and statewide. It has a walkable uptown area, coffee shops, restaurants, and that classic neighborhood vibe people really miss when they leave the New England area. I've heard more than one buyer say, this feels like the town that we grew up in, but thought we could never afford again. That sense of community, walkability, and strong schools still exists here. It just doesn't come with that same financial stress. Upper St. Clair is another strong option if you want a more classic suburban feel. It's known for academics, bigger lots, larger homes, and a very established community. Fox Chapel is great fit if you're coming from one of the more affluent Boston suburbs and you want privacy, wooded lots, and luxury. You're close to the city, but it doesn't feel like it. And if you want newer construction and that fast-growing newer suburb energy, Cranberry Township is a popular choice. According to the township itself, Cranberry's population grew from under 15,000 in 1990 to more than 35,000 today. So if you're looking for newer homes, shopping, highway access, and convenience, Cranberry tends to deliver. And if you want city living, neighborhoods like Shadyside, Squirrel Hill, and Lawrenceville offer walkable streets, restaurants, and character at a very different price point than Boston. If you're in Massachusetts, feeling successful but stretched thin, you're not imagining it. And the people leaving story isn't just anecdotal. According to the United Van Line's 2025 National Mover Study, Massachusetts ranks 7th among outbound states. Their data shows that about 54% of moves involving Massachusetts were outbound. And according to that same study, the top reasons people moved in 2025 were being closer to family, job or company transfer, and retirement. So no, this isn't just tax flight or one type of household. It's family, lifestyle, opportunity, affordability. And that's exactly how most Massachusetts buyers I've spoken with describe it. They're not trying to copy paste Boston. They're just trying to build something that feels more sustainable. They're trying to build a life that feels lighter. Now, is Pittsburgh perfect? No. And I'm always honest about that. Winters can be gray, and if you're used to the ocean, you'll miss it. And like any older city, some areas have older infrastructure. But for the right person, Pittsburgh offers something that's getting harder and harder to find in high-cost Northeast markets, and that's breathing room. All right, let's wrap this up. Massachusetts is a great state. Strong economy, world-class institutions, incredible history. But if your day-to-day life feels like a constant financial negotiation, it's worth asking whether that trade-off still makes sense. Pittsburgh offers an alternative that can feel like an upgrade in disguise. This isn't about settling. It's about making a decision that supports the life that you actually want. It's about being strategic with where you build your life. If any of this resonates with you, I'd love to help you explore what's possible. This is what I do. I've spent 12 years helping families relocate to Pittsburgh, many of them from high-cost Northeast markets just like Massachusetts. The first step is simply a conversation to see if this move even makes sense for you. Reach out to me. My contact information is on the screen and down in the description below. No pressure, no obligation, just honest guidance. And I hope this video helped you decide whether moving from Massachusetts to the Pittsburgh area makes sense for you. If you want to learn more about the area or really dive into where you should live here, watch this video next on the most underrated suburbs near Pittsburgh in 2026. I break down communities that offer strong value, great schools, and lifestyle perks that many out-of-state buyers overlook at first. I'll see you there.